I'm Rachel and we are going to cook a risotto. So risotto is a type of rice that they use from Italy, and it's great because I like making risotto because you can literally chuck anything you've got in it. So leftover meat, any kind of veg you like, whack it in with the rice and stock and then cook it all up and it tastes delicious. So we're going to start with prepping our vegetables. So we've got an onion to start with first. If you have any tips on how to cook an onion and not cry, chop an onion and not cry, please let me know, because I'm not great at them. Someone once told me that if you hold a match in your mouth, that helps. So I've just cut my onion in half after taking the ends off. Most people chop their onion up really small, especially to hide it from little ones if they don't like onion. If they're really picky and they're still going to see it, as I know from my own experience as a child, what I do is I actually cut it like this in strips. Oh, eyes are going. And then I just cut it in half so that then it's big enough that if people are really against having onion, at least they can see it and pick it out without it ruining their dinner. Oh, my eyes. Then we've got 2 cloves of garlic. So I'm just cutting down where you can feel that they're coming out, or not. As well as trying to stop myself crying. There we go. So again, a bit like the onion, cut either end off. You can use a garlic crusher or chopper if you have one. If you don't, you can just slice it up like this, nice and thin, careful with the fingers. Chefs will probably be mortified at the way I'm cutting, but more realistic for when you're at home. So do that with both of you. Cloves of garlic and then leave them to one side. Okay, so once you've done your onion and your garlic, you might want to pop it in a little bowl if it's making you cry still. Just so it's out of the way. I've had to dry my eyes between doing that. And so we're going to start peeling our veg. So yeah, carrot, I feel like I put carrot in absolutely everything because it's my son's go-to vegetable. But really you can put whatever you like in it. As well as chopping it, I'm going to chop it into really tiny bits. So I'm going to do circles like this first. I'm just going to hold them up and then try and balance them and do it again to make nice little bits. So I'm going to chop my carrot like that, and what you can also do if you want to is grate your carrot. So you can just grate it down like that. It's quicker in some respects, and some people might be more likely to eat it if it's like that and blended in. So go with what your family will prefer. There you go. Next I've got a courgette. It's a good vegetable. I think most people underuse it. I never used to use it at all. And then I made a curry once where it was carrot and courgette as the base. And ever since then I was like, oh, maybe I can use courgette. Maybe I do like it. I think it takes on flavour quite well of different things. And so on here, a bit like with the carrot, I'm just going to cut it into little bits like this. Again, like with the carrot, if it's better, you can grate it down, and then once you've grated it, that can just go in. That can probably go in a little bit later than I do it because I'm doing it chopped like this. But yeah, you can grate it down really easily. You can see it just comes out finely chopped like that to mix in. So again, and then that's the courgette. I've got broccoli here as well. So you might have seen my my roast dinner video, and on there is the I use the broccoli. So this is the rest of it. I've used this for a meal at home, a roast dinner, and now the risotto. because I literally bung anything in my risotto. And also when you get a little bit of everything in, you get a bit more variety and you don't need so much. So like that, and then just cut it into really small pieces as well. So yeah, like that, all the way down. And I leave a bit of the stalk on as well because it's got some goodness in it. Just cut that down. Some people as well, they'll just tear it. So if you find it easier to just tear it off into little bits like that, you can do that. Just a bit of experimenting and finding what works for you. So like that. There's my broccoli. So my tin of sweet corn. So I've got, again, I'm just going to use half a tin and then I'm going to put the other half a tin in the fridge and I'll use it for something else later in the week. Because again, we don't need a whole tin. Leave it in the juice in the fridge, so don't drain the juice off. Spoon the sweet corn out. And I've got a tiny sweet potato here. So as I learned from Sue doing her casserole video, with this, if you peel it rather than chop it, you're going to keep more of the goodness in because a lot of the goodness is just under the skin. I didn't know that. And because I'm going to be cooking it in the risotto, I want to make nice thin bits like this, and then I'm going to chop them into really small pieces so that they cook and it spreads far. What you can do if you don't want to make little bits like this with a sweet potato is roast it in the oven, and then if you roast it in the oven you can just pop it on top of your risotto if you prefer it roasted. So lots of nice little bits like this. And then once I finish this sweet potato, that's all of our veg prepped. Okay, so we've chopped all of our veg and all of that is ready. We're now just going to do our stock for the risotto because we're going to cook the rice and the veg all in the liquid together, and then I'm going to shred the chicken with you. So a risotto rice pack will always tell you the right amount of liquid to put in it. I always find that it varies each time I make it. I'm not entirely sure why, but I've got a litre here of boiling water, and I've got 2 chicken stock cubes. So just pop them in. And then, oh, it's hot, sorry, water's boiling hot. And so I'm just going to give that a stir. That's going to start to dissolve in there. So what I do is normally, once I've put the first bit of water in with the rice, which we'll do in a bit when we cook it, I then top this up with a bit more water and just go from there. Some people put wine in there, white wine in their risotto as well. We're not today, but some people do that to add flavour. So this chicken is the chicken from a roast chicken. So I use the roast chicken, the chicken breasts on it for roast dinner, and then all the meat off of the legs and anything left over I just put in a pot and kept. So that way we're getting 2 meals out of our roast chicken, and then either with a knife and fork or just 2 forks. I'm just going to shred it. Most of it's small bits anyway, but any big bits I'm just going to shred like that. Oh yeah, there's a big bit. Shred it like that, just to kind of separate the chicken up, and then that will all be bits in the risotto. I've just added a knob of butter, that big, in my pan, and I'm just going to leave that to melt in my frying pan, because then you start off your risotto by frying the rice. So that just stops it sticking and coats it. This is a good one as well if you're dairy free, and you can just add a bit of dairy free spread in there to fry it, because the only other thing that would have dairy in it in this is if you add cheese to the top. So if you've got dairy free and people in your family, this is a really good one to do. So the rice says 75 grams per person. If you have got small people, or depending on the appetite or elderly people that you're feeding, you might want to go for slightly less. So this is a kilogram bag with about 500 grams in it. So I'm just going to go upside down. It's always a rough estimate with me. So I'm just mixing it, and then I'm just seeing, can you see that the butter's just starting to go onto the rice, and that's going to fry. So we've just fried that for a few minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, and it just means that the rice is starting to coat and it's starting to heat up. So I'm just going to make a hole in the middle, and then into that I'm going to add my onion. Onion's really good for flavouring, and yeah, if you want small pieces they'll cook quicker, but just knowing that I don't particularly like onion, I'll put it in my food, but it's nice and big so that I can see it on my plate. Found that sometimes it's better to just do it that way than try and hide it, but just see what your preference is and what your family like. Or your own preferences. This is my preference to have it bigger, despite my parents trying to put it in really small when I was a kid. So I'm just going to add in my garlic now. I'm just going to sprinkle that over the rice rather than in with the onions, to start cooking in and adding some flavour there. There's that. And I'm just going to then mix it together. And now we're going to start adding our stock in, okay? So it's probably going to bubble and boil first. And then once it's done that, we want to take it to simmering. So that's when you just get those really small little bubbles there on the surface where it's just cooking, but you just take the temperature on the oven down, on the hob down to that. Okay, so here we go. All bubbling round, just to give it an initial boost. And of course I've got some over the hob, which means I have to clean it after every time I cook. Or maybe someone else should do the clearing it. Okay, so that's slightly buzzing. It's a little bit high, so I'm just going to drop the temperature down, and those bubbles should just get smaller in size. There we go. And then with a risotto, you just want to add a little bit of fluid at a time. So when the fluid's starting to go with this, and it starts to evaporate, kind of that's what the steam is, and the liquid goes, because it's kind of like sucked up in the rice or gone into the air. And then you just add a little bit more. So yeah, it's starting to do that, so I'm going to add a little bit more. Give it a stir, and then whilst that's just simmering, I'm going to give my stock a mix, and I'm going to top it up with a bit more water. Okay, so I've just left it cooking and giving it a regular mix so that nothing gets stuck to the bottom of the pan. And that liquid's starting to come out, so we'll put some more liquid in. And I'm also now going to start adding some of the veg, so the carrots and the sweet potato, which will take a bit longer. I'm going to add them early so that they're nice and soft with it as well. I've got one carrot here, but you know, however many carrots you want to put in, you can. And then give that a stir. I've done half grated, half cubed, but whichever you prefer. If it is all grated, then you don't need to put it in so early, because it's smaller pieces, so it will cook quicker. So we'll do that, leave it for a couple of minutes, and then I'm going to add my sweet potato. Okay, so I added the sweet potato in, that started cooking, so I'll add a little bit more stock, because we've gone down to that bit where it goes kind of, you have your stock, it cooks it through, and it gets to this stage, so just adding a little bit more, and I'm going to add the rest of the veg and the chicken now. And then it's a case of just stirring it regularly, waiting, chicken in. I'll put the veg in. Stirring and stirring until it's ready. I always have to test it with the rice. Just have a little taste to see if the rice is soft. And when the rice is soft and that liquid is gone, and that's when you know it's cooked. Okay. So I'll add this in. I've sometimes used frozen veg. I just take it out of the freezer so it defrosts a little bit before I cook it, just because of the temperature. You want it hot with the rice for it to cook. And I've also got multi-bags of vegetables before, you know, like the pre-cut stuff, and then just broken it all up, cut it down further, use them. Tinned vegetables as well. It's a good one where you can use whatever type you've got, because it's going in being cooked anyway. So yeah, that's all mixed in now. Oh no, I haven't got the sweet corn. So there's a big tin here, but I'm just using half of it. And we'll save the rest for another dinner in a little pot. Just leaving the liquid in there so that to store it in, and then just drain it before you use it. So it looks like there's not much liquid in there now, but we've added all that veg. So yes, I'm going to add some more stock and then leave it to simmer, so just those little bubbles. And I think, although I finished my stock, I think that you can see a little bit stuck to the bottom, so I'm just going to use a little bit more water to fill that, and I think I'll need to add that to it. And then just, yeah, stir it, see how you go, and then just taste it every now and again to see if that rice and veg is soft. We're good to go. So there's a little bit of moisture still there, so it's not dry, and if I just move it, you can see it's starting to stick to the bottom, so you need to give it a really good clean around. It isn't one that I'd say you can leave in the pan for a while. But there we go, that is all done, and that is your chicken and veg risotto. Enjoy!